Okay, this is a meeting of the General Services Committee to consider two ordinances, both by Councilmember Anani. They are ordinance number 13.72.20 and ordinance 14.72.20. We have present, committee members present are myself, Councilmember O'Brien, Councilmember Flynn, Councilmember Anani, other Councilmember Fahey. Other council members present are Councilmember Igo, Council President Corey Ellis, representatives from the Department of General Services, and we also have a representative from the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative, Zachary Simpson. So I guess I'll start by letting Councilmember Owusu explain the two ordinances and what he is hoping to accomplish with those ordinances. Councilmember Owusu?
Good evening. I hope everyone is well. The first piece of legislation that, as relates to the forestry, I am going to put it on hold because there are members of the neighborhood association that would like to weigh in, and also I'll be working with the administration moving forward. So that one, the forestry legislation, I'm going to put it on hold until further discussion. But as it relates to, hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah, as it relates to the legislation for the quality of life, shorten the time period and also increasing the fee, I like to say quality of life in this city of Albany has been a primary concern for many residents in our city. As a council member, I want to make a dent in addressing a long-standing quality of life issue. That issue being the need to ensure that property owners are taking care of their properties. When property owners decide that they don't want to do the work or pay someone to work to take care of their properties, that impacts our communities. It encourages wild animals, insects, and the pets to take root in these neighborhoods. A poorly maintained property drags the value of surrounding neighborhoods' properties down, and in turn, impacts the tax base. Before it gets to that point, we as a city have to be proactive in making sure property owners are taking care of their buildings and lawns, which is why I'm introducing this legislation. This legislation will empower the Department of General Service to do inspections of properties within 3 days of receiving complaints, and also shorten the time frame for some property owners to address litter violations and grass overgrowth on their properties. And it also increases the fines from littering, also individuals not take care of the property, from $500 to $1,000. Littering and lack of lawn care has become a problem in our city, and we need to make sure residents and property owners are cleaning up after themselves and making sure our neighborhood remains beautiful. Currently, if there is a property that if the property is not being taken care of, if there's a litter in front of the property, garbage, or if there's overgrown weeds, the city of Albany is notified, and the Department of General Service is notified. And from that notification, DGS will make a post to that property. And once that post is made, it's given 5 days to that owner to correct that mishap. What we have witnessed over the past couple of years is that 5 days is not encouraging residents to take care of their property. And we're also witnessing that even with those 5-day notice, DGS is not getting there in time or having enough time to post them in a lengthy and appropriate time so the property owner could take care of the property. So I want to encourage the Department of General Service with this legislation, but also encourage the property owners to correct the litter and overgrown weeds in front of their property. I know that there's been court decisions that have been made that 5 days is too short. And, you know, being on the council, I've learned one thing, well, several things. But one of it is that some fights are worth having, whether it has to go to court. And I'm willing to go to court to fight this because I believe that no one in our neighborhood should languish in litter, with garbage, with health being a top priority in the neighborhood. Many people are moving out of this city because quality of life is getting out of control. And we have to do something about it. Enough is enough. And that is why I'm introducing this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Okay, I believe we have Frank Cioli and Sergio Panunzio from DPS. So two things. I would invite them to comment on the proposed ordinance. I guess if you want to comment on the tree one, you can, but that's going to be held.
Yes.
And then also, I believe you are going to demonstrate to us how the new portal, which you established a few weeks ago, you're going to demonstrate the operation of that portal. So it's yours to comment.
We have no problem as it is written. As a matter of fact, we want to commend Councilman Owusu for increasing the fine. That is a huge issue. And it's a beginning to re-owning our own neighborhoods. We agree with it as it is written. We have no objection, and we welcome the change.
What about the time frame of a 3-day inspection of the property that's reported in the complaint?
We have no problem with that. I believe in some cases we're already doing that, but this will solidify it.
Okay. So basically, you don't have a problem with either the raising the surcharge or the 3-day. I was wondering if you could just, I invited the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative to come because they've been tracking, since COVID anyway, they've been tracking, I believe, about 400 complaints, not just on trash and overgrowth, but on all sorts of complaints that are made to see quick fix. Assuming you folks keep track of some of your data for how long it takes, first of all, to acknowledge the complaint, do a site visit, do a citation if necessary, or correct the problem if it isn't going to involve a citation. I'm assuming you would have some data with regard to those time frames. And then I'm also looking forward to you explaining how the new portal system which you've created is going to help in these matters.
Well, let me first start by saying, this legislation, where it works is so this will ensure that, we will go out and post the property within 3 days. And, so it really is not going to, I don't know that it's going to do anything to clean the property any quicker, because you're going to give people the time to do it. You got to give it mail time. We're still going to get to it. We still have to schedule to get it cleaned. I think the percentage, the surcharge and the fines is a great deterrent. So I hope that it works, but us getting out there and us, getting it done within 3 calendar days, getting the posting done within 3 calendar days is not a problem. That's not a problem. But I think we need to make it clear that it's not going to be cleaned in 3 calendar days, because you still have to give the notice. And you know what? We still have to mail out the notice. We've got to give the notice, and then we have to go out, get it scheduled, and then get it cleaned if they fail to do so.
Okay. Now, I was at a finance committee meeting. We were given some data regarding vacancies, and I noticed that Department of General Services has probably about 40 some vacancies, but and a number of them are laborers, labor supervisor. I assume that's the kind of personnel which are going to be out there doing the site visits. So I was wondering, maybe you could just tell us to what degree you've been impacted in terms of, carrying out quality of life complaints.
We've been highly impacted. Those vacancies have hurt us to be able to, get some of this done, whether it's parks, whether it's lots, whatever it is. I mean, potholes, all quality of life issues have been affected by getting, by being able to fill positions and getting people in. Look, when unemployment has been paying more than the hourly wages, it's been difficult. So, we've got seasonal positions available. We've got, again, it's just difficult.
We are recruiting every camp that we could possibly recruit, but we're getting the response of unemployment is paying more, and I'm going to let the unemployment ride it out. That's the challenge that we're having, and it's not just us, it's across the industry because of the unemployment.
Could you give us, a demonstration of the portal that you announced a couple of weeks ago, and then maybe explain to us how it's going to help facilitate your effort to track everything and keep up on quality
Yeah,
of life?
so who is hosting this meeting?
Well, I think it would be Danielle.
I am, but you
or-
have screen share capabilities now.
I do. Okay.
I wouldn't know how to do that.
All right, hold on one second. Let me just.
And in the meantime, Commissioner, can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
I'll ask later after this, actually.
Okay, so let me just quickly, this is very quick for everybody. So basically, this is, this neighborhood portal was put together for the reasons of we were going to the neighborhood, to a lot of the neighborhood groups, to the association meetings, and people were complaining that there wasn't one place they could go to get quality of life information. So it kind of spurred an idea for us to put together one spot where everybody could go to get information and one springboard, if you will, that they could go to do certain things, okay? And like anything, this is the beginning of something. I think it will evolve over time, so there'll be more things, but let me give you a quick little tutorial of some of the things that it'll do. Obviously, an easy place to ask a question. You click here, it opens up a information box where you can ask a question of DGS. This box automatically connects you to SeeClickFix to the City of Albany, okay? This would be an alerts area, a City of Albany news area. So as we alert and have news of different events, that will start to be added, okay? You hit this, it'll take you to a list of different news articles as that starts to develop. This section over here, subscribe now, or my mouse is right here. If you click that, it will take you into an area where you can give your email address so that when we are going to announce something, we can send you an email update, put you on an email list to be able to say, hey, there's a snow emergency, there's a hazardous waste schedule that just came out, there's a shredding event happening, there's something we think you need to know. We're a little behind on yard waste right now because of something. We want you to know. But this way, it's not just talking to the neighborhood associations who then have to disseminate the information. It can be talking directly to the residents. We want the residents to sign up to this so we can talk directly to them. We don't have their direct information. This way we can. Going down here, okay, this FAQ information. Each one of these sections are major areas of DGS information. Okay, and I'm going to go into one section just to show you. Waste collection, okay? You click on it. Read more about waste collection. When you hit this, okay, it gives you different waste collection information, these are questions that we get a lot, okay? How do I find out what my trash day is? You click this, it answers the question for you. In some cases, there might be another hyperlink in here. I'm gonna try to find one that might have a hyperlink. You know, here. Relating to this subject, click here. You click here, it'll take you to the information regarding that. So you don't have to look in a lot of different places to get that information. All right, it's all in one place. If you do not find your question here, you can hit this button. It'll take you to a form that you fill out, a couple of different questions it'll ask. You then submit it, and we can get back to you with a question. If it's a good question, an FAQ type question, we'll add it to that list. Okay, so the idea is that there's a lot of different questions here that we can a lot of different things that we can answer. Okay, let me see how I can get out of this.
Okay, I just want to note we have more participants in the meeting now.
Okay.
We have been joined by David Gallen, Chief Staff to the Mayor, Common Council President Corey Ellis, Councilmember Judy Dochette, Councilmember Alfredo Ballerin, and Councilmember Richard Conti. And I'll let you finish your demonstration, and then I was going to open it up to first questions by council members, and then questions by other members, and then I was going to open up to a presentation by the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative.
All right, so let me finish my presentation here then, Mike, okay?
Quick question, Rich.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all. So the FAQ information, and down here is the DGS codes. These are all codes that are very important to DGS. The ones that we maintain, of course, citywide, there's a lot of others, but these are the ones that DGS, and here are the information, and this will take you directly to the code on generalcode.com, okay, which will give you more information. Again, one-stop shop. Hit it, takes you right there. Into the middle, as we go down farther, this is our YouTube page. You're able to like the page, take you to the page. Again, some people don't realize where it is. They'd have to go to YouTube and search it. Here's a way just to click it, it's there. Moving to the middle, again, a nice video we put together on the census. You want to learn more about the census? There that is. Facebook, our Facebook page to visit. Again, one-stop shop, way to jump to it, not having to go to different places. Potholes, very important. A lot of people like to see. This immediately brings you into See, Click, Fix to go ahead and request that pothole. And this is a direct link directly into See, Click, Fix. On this side here, this part here is requesting and registering, all right? This is something that people have asked for. So there's a lot of neighborhood groups that want to host a neighborhood cleanup. They need tools. They want bag collection. They want us to help them with stuff. By doing that, they click here, it opens up a form, they fill out, they submit. It gives us all the necessary information we need to then respond back to them and be able to help them schedule that cleanup, okay? Otherwise, they call, they get somebody, it gets lost in the sauce. This way, it's very easy. They fill out the form. We have all the information we need. We get back to them pretty quickly and be able to say, yes, we can help you. We can give you what you need. It's helpful. The next one, request a meeting attendance. We get a lot of requests for Sergio and myself to attend neighborhood meetings, to go to civic groups, whatever. This is a good way to request for us to go. That way you're not going through different points of contact. Oh, I tried to call. This is a good way of doing it as well. Streetlight requests, again, there's always been an online portal from the city's website. Again, all this does is it's one-stop shop. All this is right there. You hit this, it takes you to that spot. It's always been on the city's website. This just takes you there. Registering for hazardous waste. Again, same thing. It's been on the page for hazardous waste. You hit it, it takes you there. But again, it's quicker. It's right here, one spot, easy. You go to one page. and there you go. Applying for permits, grading permits, right-of-way, street openings. Currently, right now, there is no way to do these digitally online where you fill it out, pay for it, and all of that. It is something we'd like to do eventually. We're working on it. But right now, at the very least, you can download the application, and here it is. Again, also available on the city's website, but sometimes difficult to find. People have said that. This makes it very easy right there to find it. And then some related websites to see. We are hoping that at some point, this will include some surveys, lots of video information. There's a ticker here that goes across the screen when something needs to be understood. There's, you know, a storm going on, we're doing something. So the idea would be, we always want people to look at the city's website. But for neighborhoods, this would strictly be for neighborhood quality of life information. Okay, we'd be able to tailor it to this. Part of it's, you know, it's an extension of the city's website, basically. Question?
Okay. I have only one question, and then I would open it up to other committee members. My question is, this seems like a terrific idea. Are any other departments, to your knowledge, going to work into a similar kind of approach for taking complaints, or don't you know that?
Again, one of the things I want to make clear to everybody is that this in no way replaces C-Click Fix or the website. All this is trying to streamline for quality of life issues to be able to make it a little easier while we try to, you know, just try to get to things. It was a, you know, it was a way to get it so that it was easier for people to find quality of life information, especially from the city of from the Department of General Services at this point. At some point, maybe other quality of life information for other departments could end up on this page. But for right now, it's DGS related. It's so that we have a better way of talking directly to neighborhoods. It's you know, about quality of life issues. That was the idea, so that it was easy. A lot of council members have talked to me, especially at neighborhoods in general, have said that it's difficult to find some of this information because a lot of the information that's all been on one page that you just saw, you would have to click numerous places to find in other places.
Okay. I'll open it up to other committee members if they have questions. And bear in mind, we have one other presentation coming up, but I thought you might have some questions for the commissioner and for Frank Cioli. The committee members I see are, and you can, I can't see, oh yes, I see Kathy Fay, committee member, has raised her hand. So Kathy? Hello?
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, the portal looks great. It really looks great. Everything's much more centralized. So I think this is, you know, a terrific step forward. So congratulations on that. But I wanted to go back to the legislation.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted to, I mean, you know, on the face of it, this looks great because I agree with Owusu that it's a real problem to get our properties cleaned up, to get whether it's the residents who live there, the landlord's not taking care of it, whatever it is, we need to. It's a huge quality of life issue. I totally agree. But I guess I wanted to know a little bit more about how you came up with, you know, some of these, like the 25% surcharge. What, you know, I was curious to know what is the typical surcharge with one of these cases, or how did you come up with that? And also the fine for increasing, it won't exceed 500, now it's going to be 1,000. How did you come up with those numbers? And, you know, I'm also concerned that, you know, because of this, you know, we're doing everything virtually, it doesn't seem like we have enough time for the public to weigh in on some of these issues. So usually back in the day when we were meeting in person, you'd have the landlords here, and they'd be at least commenting and aware that this is happening. I'm a little concerned that that's not happening here. So if you could comment on some of that, Owusu, and also DGS staff.
Councilman?
Yeah, I like to yield to the DGS. But anyway, as it relates to the shortening of the time period, one of the things that we have noticed, and many people in the neighborhood have noticed, is that whenever a property is posted, typically a constituent takes extra time to kind of remedy the problem. And I think by shortening it is going to encourage DGS and also encourage the property owner to take care of it. But as it relates to the number from currently as it stands, I believe the maximum fine that DGS could put on a property which has litter is up to $500. I think by doubling this, it sends a strong message that quality of life is a priority to us on the council, and we want to make sure that individuals are taking care of their property. If you go around Hudson, Hamilton, or even parts of our city, quite frankly, it's becoming a dump. And I believe that the only way, it has to be a carrot and a stick type of legislation where we hold property owners accountable. There should be no reason why residents have to endure the amount of litter and trash on individuals' properties. Their property taxes are going down. And as it relates to the landlords having a say, or property owners having a say, to quite frankly, they're part of the problem, some of them. So I believe that this is a step in the right direction. It's not going to solve all of the problem, but I believe if we get the message out that if you don't take care of the property, you're going to be held accountable, and that we're going to enforce these existing codes, I think it's going to change the direction that we're witnessing all across our city. I'm tired of doing cleanups in the Pine Hills neighborhood. Every weekend there's a cleanup. Every other day there's a cleanup. My council colleague, Alfredo, is doing 4 cleanups in his neighborhood. Council member, we have priorities that we have to focus on. We shouldn't be doing 6, 7 cleanups in 1 month. It's time that some of these property owners take ownership in the way their streets and their neighborhood look. And I believe this is sending the right message.
I thank Councilman Owusu for expressing, and he's right. A lot of these properties are absentee landowners. They'd rather pay the fine than actually take care of it. One of the things I want to point out is that up to $500, but it's not 0 to 500. It's escalating. So your first offense, it's $100. Your second offense might be $250. Your third offense, $300. So we give you enough time to remedy and correct your problem. And what we hear all the time, it's my tenant, it's my tenant. Well, the tenant is paying rent. You're the property owner. You have to take some responsibilities. And with this fine, we're finding out that it's cheaper for the landlord to pay the fine rather than conform to the ordinance. And it's not fair to the property owner that maintains his property, that takes care of his lawn, and is concerned about the neighborhood. So increasing the fine is definitely one of our priorities to address this quality of life issues that keep on putting the burden on the city rather than on the property owner who's collecting rents, who's collecting profits and making profit on the property. So I just want to be clear that the first offense is not $500. It escalates, clearly it escalates. And we have hearing, we have opportunity for the property owner to come to a DGS hearing and gives a statement of why it wasn't done. And so I think this is a right approach, and I really want to praise Councilman Owusu for taking the step and sticking his neck out because no one really wants to do this. But we need to address this issue.
And Sergio, how about the 25% surcharge? Did you take a look at what the cost is to go in and clean up some of these situations? I'm just curious how you determined that.
Well, let me tell you a little bit how it's done. So it's the cost of the cleanup. All right. So what we will do is we charge for every truck, every person that's used, every piece of equipment that's used. So that's one line, that's one bill. one part of the bill. And then the next part is the fine, which is the 500 or to be increased to 1,000 as per this legislation. So, there's the cost of cleanup. Part of what this 15% to the 25% is administrative surcharge. That includes what it takes for us to do our end, on this end, the billing, the notices, the cost of the certified mail, and all of that. And that is, we work that at the 15% currently. So it would be at the 25%. And I don't really know. I haven't really looked at, what it's costing us. It's been at that forever because that's what the code said it was. You know what I mean? I don't know what the actual cost of our staff and all of the stuff that we do could be more than that. But, I think this is up to, together with a cost of 25% surcharge. I mean, again, I think if your concern is that we need to back that number up before we start charging it, I'm sure what we can do, there could be interpretation there that we could look and see that we're not overcharging, so that we could take a look and see for the administrative surcharge end of things, make sure it's fair, right? Knowing we can go up to 25%, but the fine, I agree, should be higher. And we charge the cost. The cost is the cost. It's the cost of what it costs us.
And one of the things that we have done, just again, to be fair to the violator, even though we shouldn't be fair to the violator, we've used the rates that we use are the FEMA rates. So if FEMA, which is the federal government, says that a truck is $1.50 for an hour, and they accept that, and that's how they reimburse us, I felt that it was the right number. So we use a rate that is consistent to the Northeast corridor by the federal government, and the only thing that's differs, that increases that cost or not, is the amount of value of the waste that we have to take. Obviously.
Yeah. Excuse me, but we have 3 hands up, and they've been up for a while.
Okay,
First,
thank you very much. That was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
I also want to note we've been joined by Council Member Frederick, but Jack Flynn has had his hand up the longest, and he's a committee member. So Jack, you're on.
Thanks, Michael. Sergio and Frank, so this question goes to you. As you know, 278 Whitehall in my ward gets noticed every time. So you're saying their fine now is going to go from 500 to 1,000, which I agree with, because they never do it. So is that true?
Yeah, so this is the way it would work. The first offense, so you know the way that it's worked currently.
Right.
First offense on any property is $100. Second offense is $200. Third offense is three, and then fourth is $375. And actually, I think we stopped at $375. I don't think we've ever gone to $500, to be honest with you. Why, I don't know, but that's what's been said.
Well, that's my point. I assume that you're charging them $500 every time you do their project.
Every time. Once they get to that point, it's every time. So we would have to if this gets passed, we would have to redo the structure or go out to more. So we'd still do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever.
It's incremental.
No, that's my point. My point is, if this legislation gets passed, I already assumed you're already charging them the max because it's every year you guys do it twice a year.
Yeah.
So I assume by now it should be 500.
Yes.
So the next time, if this gets passed, the next time you're saying it's going to be like 600, then 750, and then 1,000.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
Correct.
Okay, that's my point. It's
And
incremental.
hopefully that deters them.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you. I hope.
But right now, it may be cheaper for them to have us do it
Right.
than for them to
Hire a
have
landscaper.
than them to hire and mobilize and have a landscaper do it.
Oh, I agree. So I'm using that as an example. So you charge them 500, and then what do you charge them for the administration fee? Like $300?
No, the administration fee is pennies because it's.
Oh, it's just new. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money because it's like I said, it's 15% of the total bill. I don't even know if it's included of the fine. I think it's just the bill.
Right.
It's
No,
the
it's
cost.
not inclusive.
So-
It's not inclusive
yeah.
of the fine because we have a case where we were sued on it back in 2017. It was 15% of the cost of the cleanup.
The cleanup, right?
Because-
Cleanups usually are. It depends on the size of the actual, issue.
Yeah, But that's in addition to the fine that you were talking about, Jack. So
Yes.
like they're paying the cost of the cleanup plus a 25% surcharge plus whatever fine Sergio and DGS assesses.
Right. So my question now to Wuso is, are you concerned that this fine may go down to the college students and the lower income residents? Are you concerned about that?
I am not concerned at all. I hope it does. And it sends a message that, listen, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in. You should take care of your property, okay? You should take care of your property. Enough is enough.
I agree. I'm not disputing that. All right, thank you, Michael.
Okay,
again,
the order of
and again,
hands,
to close off on that statement, and again, they could have an appeal process, hardship case, we would have to take a look at it. I mean, but a repeated offender, I agree with Wusu. I mean, you know, shame on me if I let you continue to do this.
Yeah, if it's a first offense, it's gonna be a $100 fine,
And we'll take a look at it.
and we'll take a look at it, and we'll be, you know, like I said, we'll be nice to them if something happens, you know?
Oh, Frank and Sergio, I agree. I'm not disputing it. Yeah, thank you.
okay. The order of hands raised are Councilmember Conti, then Councilmember Igo, and Councilmember Ballerin. And I want to note that we have been joined by Pro Tem President Kelly Kimbrough. So, Richard.
Thank you. A couple of questions. As I recall, and this is for Sergio or Frank, that while the current standards is the 5-day notice, that if there's a situation where the lot presents an imminent public health or safety concern, sanitary concern, that you can act immediately without the need for prior notice?
That is correct.
That's correct.
That is correct.
Okay. And I thought that was in code someplace, but I don't seem to be able to find it.
I can, Richard, I can send it to you. It's a health and safety, it's called a health and safety.
Clause, it's an health and safety clause. I believe that in that case, we would have to get involved. For example, if it's a tree that fell down,
Right.
structure, we would have to get the fire department to say the structure is no good. But yes, there is a mechanism there to say if it's an imminent danger to people and property, we could act immediately to abate the immediate dangers to people and property.
It's a form you have to fill out to make sure, because I was a part of that legislation when we passed it a few years back.
Yeah, I thought because I kind of remember it.
Yes,
You know.
and it's a form we have to fill out to show that there's
Right.
food waste, whatever.
Maggots.
Yeah.
A cup is not satisfying the courts by saying
Okay.
it's immediate danger.
All right. This proposal here also requires that you have to, upon receiving a complaint, you have to inspect the property within 3 calendar days.
Yeah.
Calendar days includes weekends, holidays, whatever. Is that something that you would be able to do?
No, yeah, well, no, I would probably say it should be business days.
Business day.
Yeah, not calendar days. I'm sorry, I glanced over that. So that's gonna have to be business days.
Okay.
Sure, JR, can you make that amendment right now?
I'm sure you all as council members agree and stewards of the budget don't want us bringing overtime in just for posting.
Okay. And again, this doesn't change the notice provisions or the timeframes once the property owner has been noticed. I have a question on the penalty section, not the surcharge provision, but the amendment to Chapter 258. That penalty has broader application than just this particular chapter. So that is the default penalty system. Wherever a penalty is not specifically mentioned in a certain part of the code, or there might be a reference back, 258 is the default. So actually, we doubled this penalty provision a couple of years ago. It's being doubled again. I don't know how broad an impact or what other provisions of the code that actually applies to. I did a quick search earlier today, and I found about 8 sections of the code that reference 258 as the penalty for a violation. There are probably other sections where it applies where it's not mentioned. So if a penalty is not mentioned, it goes back to 258. I don't know if it's appropriate in that case to increase this particular default penalty, which has a lot broader application to situations less serious than this, up to $1,000, or if we should consider establishing a totally separate penalty provision for this section with the graduated penalty that you administratively do right now. But without knowing how broad 258 applies to other sections of the code, I'd be concerned about what we're doing. I mean, it relates to litter. I mean, if you drop a piece of litter or whatever, it also does relate to the vacant lots, but there are other areas like protest, violations, large group events, auctions. I mean, just there's a whole bunch that come up. So I'm not sure if this is the right way of doing that.
Well, I would leave that to you. DGS wouldn't have any thoughts on that, however you'd want to do it. I mean,
I don't know if the law, I don't know if the law department has reviewed this, made any kind of a review or weighed in on this penalty provision, because it's a lot broader, as I say, than just this one section.
Because, for the record, just so everybody knows, is that our max penalty right now for illegal trash and for the overgrowth, the lots, as we call them, the max is $375. All right. We don't even go to the 500. So it's $375. Once you get to that, which is the fourth offense, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth is $375 every time. We've never actually gone to the 500. I don't know why we've never hit the 500, even though it says 500. I think because at one point it was 375 and it changed, and we just didn't realize it or whatever. But it's been a 375, so I think a decision was made to do that. So we've stayed underneath that. You know what I mean?
Right,
so,
but this particular section, it deals with departments other than DGS and sections of codes that are not within DGS's jurisdiction.
I got you.
And that's a concern without knowing what the how broad the applicability is, that we're increasing this without having a good sense as to what we're doing.
Whatever you decide.
That's why I suggest you might want to look at the specific violation for this section.
Okay, 3 hands raised. Councilmember Igo, Councilmember Ballerin, Councilmember Joe Shad. So Joe, you are next.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank Owusu for taking this matter up. And Frank, first I'd like to commend you for putting that portal together. And I don't want to bring those questions in right now, but I think that should be expanded as fast as possible, especially for people looking that can't get Nexel, and looking at some of the things like when the bridge was out the other day on Henry Johnson Boulevard or one of those. People don't know that. The faster you could tie in with them, that would be very, very beneficial. And I had the same concerns Richard did with the business day, and you're taking care of that. But now most of my issues have been people that have been deceased. Their house has been sitting there and they aren't in the hands of the bank yet. There might be an estate, this and that. I don't know what you do there. I found the worst offenders were being the banks and realtors. It's in their hands, a foreclosure, whatever, all of this. That's an issue. And I think they should be hammered because they just ignore it because they probably find it cheaper for them, That's one issue. And back to the portal again. Click Fix has been an issue for some of the more senior people, okay? And I believe people that don't have the internet, don't have the web, also would agree with that. So Click Fix is a little difficult for some people. And I hope this portal, I don't know what the way around is, to just keep calling, which they don't like doing. And they're finding some things aren't followed up, but this portal should help. That's the biggest thing, I guess.
So if I can just say to you that for people who don't have computers, we actually utilize ClickFix. We do put stuff in they can still call 434 City, and we put it into ClickFix ourselves on their behalf.
Okay.
So we still have that hotline. For a few of you that have been around as long as I've been around, I started managing the 434 City line, and that still actually happens, right? So we answer the calls, we put it in, and that's where it goes, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have 3 hands up, Councilmember Ballerin, Councilmember Dochette, and Councilmember Frederick. And after those 3 are done with questioning, I want you to bear in mind, we still have the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative that is going to do a PowerPoint on their tracking of trash and unkempt lawns. So Alfredo, you're on.
Make sure it's clear. So it's fined, no one gets any fees as long as they get it cleaned up within 72 hours, correct?
No, you don't get any fee even if you after the 5-day posting. Some of these violations we find a good 11% to about 20% are abated by the owner.
Yeah.
Not every violation, not every posting results into a punitive action or a fine. Some of them, as a matter of fact, surprisingly, a lot of it, which is somewhere between 12 to 17%, are taken care of by the owner once they're notified.
I just want to be clear. So this is
Sorry.
reducing the 5 days. So when you post it right now, a homeowner has 5 days to correct it. This is
We have to abide by the 5-day rule. That's set by the court as your legal has explained. There was a lawsuit involved. We went to court, and the judge ruled that we have to give a 5 days notice of abatement. You have to give, basically what he said, you have to give the property owner a chance to resolve the issue before he gets fined. What this ordinance does is that guarantees that within 3 days of us receiving, we put eyeballs on it and we start the clock. We start the clock. That's what this ordinance does.
And it increases the
fine, escalate, instrumentally. Doesn't change the 5 days issue.
So from when they receive this, they have 5 days to correct the problem before they get any fines.
Yes,
That's correct.
I just want to make sure the public understands. So it's not a situation where you get fined if there's a complaint against your property. If there's a complaint against your property, once you get the complaint, you have 5 days to correct the issue or contact DGS to work out the problems. What I see in my ward is overgrowth grown on grass. That is a constant problem. That is a landlord's responsibility. That is not a tenant's responsibility. That is the property owner's responsibility. If a tenant is putting trash in their property or putting trash in front of their property, like it's another issue that I deal with constantly, that is a landlord's issue to address with their tenant. So I do like that this is going to make landlords more responsible. I'm a landlord, and so saying that as a landlord, most frustrating to other homeowners and property owners and landlords is when other people don't take care of their properties, which creates. So I am all for making people who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing get financially responsible for it, because that's how you're going to get people's opinion, attention.
right.
That's what they care about. You hit them in their pockets, they'll start taking care of their property better.
We agree. And again, one of my policies, and not Frank could vouch for it, one of my position as commissioner of DGS has always been not to be punitive. We want people to change and correct their behavior. But after a while, if you don't change and correct your behavior, then it has to be punitive. So your first fine, and like you said, you got 5 days. If you call us up and says, hey, I just got this notice, I need 6 days to get this done. As long as you're constrained to that, we will forego issuing fines. Our intent is not to be punitive, but more corrective. But again, like you said, many landlords are absent landlords. They don't care, and they don't live in town, and they don't live in the city. They don't have to put up with it, and they'll just collect the property. So I agree with you 1,000%. It's a step to begin to make people convert to our ordinances.
Oh, can I just say,
Okay.
Usu will be in your neighborhood this weekend. If you want to come by, we'll be right around your area. You're more,
Sounds good. I'm available.
sounds good.
Okay, the next hand up is Councilmember Dochette, and then Councilmember Frederick, and then I'd like to hear from the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative. So Judy, you're on.
Thank you. I had sent Owusu some recommendations for some changes in this. One of them was because C-Click Fix specifically says that it's not legal notice, that I thought that we should be including, upon receiving a complaint, add language in there saying including a complaint submitted via C-Click Fix, to make it clear that this 3-day period would start to tick when C-Click Fix is filed. I thought Owusu had agreed to that.
Yes,
I know-
I do agree. John Raphael, can we add, is that in there?
No, but C-Click Fix you have to sign off that it's not official notice to the city or it won't accept it. So we could put that language in right at the beginning, upon complaint, including by C-Click Fix.
I think you need to be prudent on that, and maybe I should give that legal, because that boxes you in to a fine. Where now the language is vague enough to give flexibility.
You know, we get a lot of phone calls. We get emails, we get phone calls.
Yeah.
If you put that in by C-Click Fix, then that means that only the ones that come in through C-Click Fix
Right.
should be done posted within 3 days.
That
Well, we could
It
make
boxes
it,
you in. I don't think you want that. I think you want them all to be done.
That's not what
That's
I,
not-
that's
no,
not
that
what
isn't what
it
you're
said.
saying. It's including,
Including a complaint submitted
but
via.
not limited
Okay,
to.
okay. Thank you.
I am
So
okay with,
the second thing, this is good to have this up there. The second thing I noted is the intro language for section 1 and 2. We're not having all of this section 313-51.1 read as follows. We're only amending subsections B and E of that, and it doesn't reference. It calls section 313-51-1 a chapter, when actually the chapter is 313, and this is section, we're amending 313-51.1 of chapter 313 of part 2 of the code. So that was another thing. The other thing I have noticed, this is kind of interesting. This subsection B only applies to violations of Article 4 and 5, which are litter, and applies to, Article 4 is litter, vacant lots is number 5, and that has the stuff about noxious weed and overgrowth, etc. It is actually section 313-51 that has in paragraph, in subsection or subdivision A, however you want to label it, that actually applies it to all other lots. And that is actually in a different article. It's in Article VA. I don't know why that got numbered that way, but it's very clearly a different article from Article 4 or 5. So I think that that should also be added in there. This is apparently some, Oversight, again, I don't know why he got labeled VA, but that's an issue. Section 2 also has the issue with regard to the intro language. With regard to, we're actually amending section 258-1 of Article 258 of Part 2 of the city code, etc. So those changes should be made from a technical aspect of this. And the final thing that I had mentioned to Owusu is, and I'm kind of curious, Commissioner and Frank, the issue of weeds in sidewalks. One of the most unsightly things that exists throughout the city and adds to that feeling of blight is foot-high, 2-foot-high weeds in the sidewalk or by the city trees in front of properties. You go down Morton Avenue, you know, that's one place I noticed. Eagle Street, the Swan Street, I've noticed this, and so many places, you know, in Arbor Hill and South End. So I was thinking that it might help you guys with enforcement and notice, and we should be putting people on notice of a certain height. I suggested 6 or 9 inches would be appropriate. And I'm kind of wondering, do you guys ever cite people for weeds growing in the sidewalk and the pavers, etc., in front of a building, number 1, and number 2? If so, what height does something have to get to before, and you know, and I think for the council, it's like, okay, so, and do we think that there should be something a little bit clearer with regard to what is acceptable? Because I think a lot of what we're seeing is just simply not acceptable, and people think that it's okay because it has to get a foot, 2 feet before we'll cite them. So your thoughts, gentlemen?
It's part of that code for the 5-day, you know, the 5-day notice for the property maintenance code. You know, the rear of the property, front of the property, they're supposed to maintain the tree wells in front, you know, the right of way, they're supposed to mow it, maintain it free of litter and trash. That's all part of it.
I don't think we have a site.
You know, we never really cite it. Unfortunately, we don't really go that far. You know, we had some ideas this year before COVID of maybe getting a couple of seasonals and get out there and maybe start a little program and you know, really try to hit it. And then COVID hit and the money issues with the federal government and everything else hit. So I don't know, maybe we can try a do-over in 2021, hopefully, but.
One of the things that we talked about, because I agree with you, we're very unsightly. And one of the things that we talked about when we first started this program, and then COVID happened, but the grades need to be relooked at. Some of the tree grades need to be looked at. There's technology out there that prevents the weed from growing as rapid. And also have in our traffic areas a crew that goes out there and actually looks at these grades, cleans them up, and applies some of this new technology, which is matting. It's not really steel, so the roots don't go through, and weeds go through. But COVID happened, and
Everything is money. Everything is
COVID, but yes, you know, we never cited. I don't think.
No, we
ever
don't.
cited
We don't really. It should
someone
be
for
part of
weed.
it if you do, but
We should.
Yeah.
Would it help, would it help you, gentlemen, if we put something specific like 6 or 9 inches, you know, anything over 6 or 9 inches is an automatic violation?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would like to see none.
yeah.
Because
Well-
you look at New Scotland, you look at Delaware, you look at some of this beautiful area of restaurants and people eating outside, and you see this tree trunk with bushes going over it.
The business districts don't even
Don't
clean them
even
up.
clean them up, so, which that's something where we wanted to engage with them as well, and hopefully the portal will allow us to do that. Because eventually, what I like to see on the portal is eventually come, automated and actually, I'm looking for the word. No, when you talk to each other.
So
A chat,
you talk-
a chat, a
Yeah.
blog, a chat.
Interactive,
Yeah.
interactive, that's the word.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. With the business district and say to them, you can help us by doing this, you can help us by doing that.
Yeah, but it really, for example, I think when I drive along Ontario between Madison and Providence, there are some places, some of them are businesses and some of them are just rental properties where the weeds are 2 feet high. And some of them are trees, and it's not necessarily in a tree well. It's growing up between the cracks in the sidewalk. And I just think what a difference it would make if that was all addressed.
It's certainly citable under the ordinance.
Well, can it be addressed in this particular ordinance? And Judy, I had a question for you. You said that we should also add a reference to Article Roman numeral 8. Did I hear that correctly?
No, VA. For some reason,
Oh, V, V as in Roman numeral V, followed by the letter A.
right.
Okay.
And it's a
And that'll
capital A.
insert
Capital
right
A.
after Article 5, V.
Because
We have,
section 313-51-1 is in Article V capital A. It's an odd numbering of it, but it's clearly a separate article. It's not
It's an odd numbering in
section
a code
within
in general.
Article 5.
so we should insert that where? Right after the recitation of Articles 4 and 5 or some other?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I would say 4, comma.
I know where it needs to go. It's the way the code is structured is very weird. So that's where the mishap happened. Because
Yeah.
what she's specifying is it's supposed to be like section 5.1 of Article BA of chapter 313 of part 2 of the Code of the City Hall. That's what it's supposed to read like.
It's actually supposed to be section,
Wait.
it's supposed to be section 313-51.1. And it should actually be subsection B of section 51.
Right. Thank you. Well, it's subsections B and E.
So that's
Correct.
So it's chapter 313, but it's section 313 51.1.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait,
So,
just a moment. Wait, don't move on, Mike, because we gotta get this right. So before section 313, right after section 1, you need to say subdivisions B, capital B.
There's subsections.
No, these
Subsection,
are fine. This is fine in terms of construction and legislative drafting. These are fine if you're indicating specifically.
But you're making it look like you're amending section 313-51.1 to drop out subdivisions A.
You can't drop out anything unless it's been struck out. You have to specifically strike it out in order to take it out. This is just amending these portions.
Oh. Well, JR, what do you suggest we do?
This is fine. The way we have right here is perfectly fine this way.
Okay. And you're going to type that in for us.
So it's
this is it.
actually, if I can say, it's section 313.51 of chapter 313 of Article VA.
No, it's article goes before chapter. Section of Article V of chapter 313. You have to, it's
Okay, you're right.
superiority.
Okay.
It goes under superiority.
So wait just 1 minute. So go into the body of B. You see
Okay.
where it's bolded, IV and or V?
Mm-hmm.
That should be IV, comma, V, and/or VA.
No,
No.
you're amending, you're in VA. That subsection is in VA.
Right.
Yes, so you don't reference that.
Could you guys work this out so we can get some questions in?
I was going to say that.
Yeah, because we got a couple of questions and then we have waiting the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative folks.
Mike, I have an important question people have been asking.
Okay.
That affects everybody in the city. I looked at the portal and there was one question there. When is it good for me to put out my trash bags, lawn waste, okay? And say my ward, there's days they pick it up Tuesday, Wednesday, the regular garbage pickup. But it always seems like, and I know you have problems now because of COVID and lack of, could be a couple of weeks. And I welcome the idea that people could drop their stuff off up in North Albany. But say in my neighborhood here, okay, we put our trash out on a Wednesday night to be picked up on Thursday morning. So it used to be presumed that sometime in that day, they would also pick up your lawn waste. But then it ended up being always, it seemed like on a Saturday, and it ends up having people put out every day of the week and not knowing when they should. So is there a schedule, Frank, that, normally the next day or 2 days? Because a lot of people like to know when they're actually supposed to put it out.
We'd like them to put it out on their trash day, if we could. It's been a little difficult because of this. We've been behind because of the issues that we've talked about, the COVID
I know
issues.
that now, but even the past few years, say in my neighborhood, it's, maybe you're lucky if you get it Saturday morning, sometimes Friday morning, which is a couple days after. I just want to know what to tell them.
Again, we are asking people to put it out on their trash day, and it may not get picked up right on that day, but we want to put it out on the trash day.
Well, as long as they aren't going to be fined for it.
They're not getting fined for it. No.
Thank you.
Okay, Sonia Frederick has had her hand up for a long time. So Sonia, you're on.
Thank you. I have a question for Sergio and Frank. So in terms of these instances of cleanup, do you go over the $1,000 threshold in cost?
Oh, what do you mean? You mean for?
So say you go
cleanups?
to pick up a property.
Yes.
The expenses that you incur via staff, trucks, etc. Does that ever go over the $1,000?
Okay, so the $1,000, the number in the code that's $1,000 is for a fine, not for the cost of cleanup.
Completely aware of that. Yeah.
Okay.
But like
So,
your
yes,
expenses.
The cost of cleanup, yes, can go over $1,000.
Okay. So I
Recently, we
accept.
had one that was $1,300 because the backyard was disgusting
And a pool
and there was a pool that was dilapidated that had to come down.
with mosquitoes and larvae, and we got caught by the health department, so we had to knock down the pool.
So I accept, because if we're talking about like repeat offenders and we're really looking to instill some punitive, things into the mix so that they start taking care of their property, would it be advantageous of us to say up to $1,000 or the greater of expenses incurred? So that if you, for example, have a property that costs $1,500 and they're repeat offenders, you could charge them for the full bill so that you're not incurring cost DGS and you're getting the full payment of the cost.
Well, right now, currently we would charge them, we could charge them up to $500 plus that $1,300 bill. So they would owe $1,800.
So this is in
In
access.
addition to, the fine
access
is,
of
the
cost.
fine is they're gonna reimburse us for what we spent, and then here's your punishment, is the fine.
Gotcha. Thank you for that clarification. All right, I'm good.
Okay, David Gallen has his hand up, and after that, we will go to Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative. David?
Thank you, Councilman. I just wanted to circle back on a point Councilmember Conti made regarding the penalties. I think I'm curious if Councilmember Anani, if you'd be willing to amend the penalties provision to have it specific to this particular violation, because the way I'm reading this as it is now, we actually are amending all the penalties for violations in the city code that aren't already specified in a particular section.
So how do you suggest doing that, Dave?
By adding a section in the 300 chapter, let me get the right number. Just 'cause I have it up on another-
31351.
Yeah, on 31351, to put the penalty language in there specific to the to this particular issue, or something of that nature.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
not-
okay with that, actually.
Basically just so it's not like right now as I'm reading it, it looks like we're amending the provision, the blanket penalties provision at the end of the city code. Well, it's not really at the end. It's its own standalone chapter right now, that we would be amending, as opposed to the penalties provision within this particular violation in 313.
JR, do you follow them on that? Because you're our guy typing the read.
I mean, we can talk about it after if you want to get back to something else, but I just wanted to raise that. If
Okay.
I mean, we can work out the particulars. It's up to you, but I understand. I just wanted to throw that out there before.
If it's not going to take too long, please add the recommendation in. But,
It will, because you have penalty violations for every different section. So Article 1, 2, 3, like 7, they all have their own penalties of offenses and they have their own promulgations. The provision that we were just amending was just the notice of violation. So if we want to move from chapter 58 to the rest of 313, we would have to go through every other penalty offenses.
So how do we act on what we want to act on tonight? What is your suggestion?
I think we could go through the presentation and John Raphael could make the amendments as we go along. And if it's done by then, I mean.
Unfortunately, if you go to I'll pull it up right now. If you go to section 313 as it is right now, I'm sorry, not 313. Give me 1 second.
If not, we could just go to the presentation and just take it later on.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, let's go to presentation.
Okay, so we have Zach Simpson with the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative, and he has prepared a PowerPoint and a spreadsheet on C-click fixes that they have been tracking related to overgrowth or litter and trash. Zach?
Thank you very much, Chair, Councilman O'Brien, and everybody else. Should I just go ahead to share my screen now, and then we'll go through the PowerPoint?
Sure. JR is the principal host, so I think he can.
Zach, you already have it.
I have access? Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so everybody can see my screen?
Yep.
We're good to go? Okay. So I'm Zach Simpson. I am the founder and program coordinator of the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative Program. I just wanted to go through some data that we have collected as end users of the C-Click Fix reporting tool. Before I do that, I just want to commend Councilman Anani for his ordinance. I think I agree with its spirit. I think it's really important to tighten up things with property owners as far as, overgrowth, trash. I think it's very good. So I just want to just start going through the slides, talk a little bit about the program, talk about some of our data, and then start drilling down into what we're seeing as far as overgrowth and trash issues in our data set. So the Uptown Neighborhood Cooperative, it's a community collaborative that includes 5 neighborhoods: the Beverwick, Eagle Hill, Melrose, Pine Bush, and the Upper Washington Avenue neighborhoods. Our first official meeting kicked off May of 2020. It had been in the works for about half a year. I started thinking about it back in October or November of 2019. The purpose of our program is to help residents address a lot of the issues like code violations, problems that you see within the neighborhood. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. So we really, during COVID-19, I know that personally, I walked every day in my neighborhood and others. And this was something I kind of harnessed with our program, is to encourage others to not just walk in your neighborhood, walk in other neighborhoods and just look around, focus on things that don't look right and things that are see-click fixable. So we look for all types of things like unsafe buildings, property overgrowth, which is very relevant tonight, graffiti, streetlight issues being out or flickering. We look for problematic sidewalks. We look for sinkholes, things with, issues with trash, potholes, big or small, issues with trees, and many more. Before I started this program, which, just so you know, it started out as a 3 neighborhood-wide program, became 5 in June. I looked at a lot of the current see-click fix tickets that were out there, and I was concerned. I actually did a full review of all 3 neighborhoods and all the see-click fix tickets that were out there, and I saw some issues. So I was prepared. So I decided before I started collecting data with our program, I was going to create a real robust Excel spreadsheet, color-coded, keeping real track, like finger on the pulse of every specific issue that was reported through our program, the address where it was reported, the unique ticket ID that's assigned to it, what neighborhood it was reported in, the date at which it was reported, the date it was acknowledged, the date it's been resolved or not. So I'm going to present some of that data tonight. Every month since June, I've been releasing a see-click fix progress report. I close out at a specific date every month, and it kind of gauges how the city is doing from the end user perspective, not DGS, not, it's the end users. And as of August 9th, we have submitted 403 see-click fix tickets in our program, which is a lot. So I just wanted to go through the latest report we released. It was on August 9th. I'll get my little pointer here. So if you look across the top, we have our 5 different neighborhoods. And then, you look at the next line, we have our potholes. Beverwick is actually doing quite well. Congratulations, Alfredo. But there's other issues in other neighborhoods with potholes. But based on what I'm seeing, DGS, they get a pothole, they fill it, they close it out in about 3 weeks to a month. Sidewalk repair, sidewalk is suspected. Either it's deemed it doesn't need any fixing and it's closed, or they determine that a tripping point needs to get repaired and they do that, or they just put it on the sidewalk replacement list. Now these 2 next areas here, they're important for tonight because they focus on property overgrowth. If you look across, I think we have about 41 issues of property overgrowth out of the 403. Trash issues about 11. And then we have other issues. But this is the number down below. It's the issue resolution rate for the city of Albany at this time, as of August 9th. It's 36.32%. Now, some people might say that doesn't sound very good, but the next slide will kind of give you a perspective that it actually is doing a lot better. So when we released our first report for see-click fix, the issue resolution rate for the city of Albany was about 3.49%. And then 2 weeks later, we had our meeting, and I do a revised report for every meeting. It was 4.65, and then in the next meeting, the next flyer we sent out was about 17.4, And then it went up to 30.32 in the latest report, which was on the previous screen. The city is up to 36.32%. So it's doing better. And this next slide shows you the total number of C-Click fixed tickets that we have submitted through the program. And as you see, there was a bit of a spike here. And that was because we actually annexed Eagle Hill and Pine Bush. And there was a lot of issues that came in during this time period. But it seems like the issues are kind of flattening out. So I think we've collected a lot of the issues. So let's focus first on the trash issues. So I pulled out data for just trash. There's 11 total out of 403. And pretty much they have focused on Beverwick and Upper Washington. The other 3 neighborhoods didn't have any issues. But the next part, I just want to focus in. So we have 11 issues total. You start looking at those 11 issues. You start seeing 4 different things happening here. Now, first, as some people say, the program is working as designed. You submit a C-Click fixed ticket. It's acknowledged, usually in about 2 days. The location's inspected. The ticket is closed. That's the ideal scenario. But then you start seeing 3 other things happening with C-Click Fix. You see, you submit a C-Click Fix ticket, it's acknowledged, the property is inspected, and then there's no update. Nothing. Nothing for the end user, the person that actually took the time to submit this ticket. Then there's the third issue. You submit a ticket, it gets acknowledged, it's inspected and posted, and then there's no update. There's no update. And in the fourth issue, you submit a C-Click Fix ticket, it's acknowledged, and there's no update. So the next 4 slides, I just want to go through those 4 scenarios and show you real examples of where I'm seeing, out of a data set of 11, 4 different things going on here. So this is the first one. So this is, you submit a C-Click Fix ticket, it's acknowledged, location's inspected, and the ticket is closed. This was in the Beverwick neighborhood. The date in which it was submitted was June 9th. There was an issue with trash piled up on a porch. Again, we have the unique ticket ID number. The date it was acknowledged was 2 days after it was reported. And then it was resolved about 12 days later. This is that second scenario. You submit a C-Click Fix ticket, it's acknowledged, and then it's inspected, and there's no update. The last update on this ticket here, which was an issue with, it looks like a concrete slab that was just dropped there 3 years ago. July 6th, 6 weeks, no update. Here's another issue. You submit a C-Click Fix ticket, the ticket is acknowledged, it's inspected and posted, and there's no update. This one was acknowledged and on the 11th. June 11th, it was posted, no update. And here's the final one. You submit a C-Click Fix ticket, it's acknowledged, no update, no update. It's acknowledged. So what I did was, because the scenarios 2 through 4, there's no real closeout. There's no closeout. So I took the data I had for scenario 1, and I looked at how the quickest it got resolved, the highest it got resolved, and the average. So the time elapsed from the date of the issue was submitted to the date the issue was closed, the lowest was 4 days, the highest was 30, and the average is 20. So let's move on to property overgrowth, which is it's a larger sample size, 41 out of 403. About, what, 10%, somewhere in there. Again, Beverwick had 14, Eagle Hill had 0, Melrose had 9, Pine Bush had 2, Upper Washington had 16, and the issue resolution rate for overgrowth is 19.51%. So again, this is a larger sample size, but we're seeing kind of the same problems with the scenarios. First scenario, which is see-click fix working as designed. This is what you expect as an end user of this program. You submit a see-click fix ticket, it's acknowledged, location is expected, and it's closed. But then you have these 3 other scenarios. You submit a see-click fix ticket, it's acknowledged, it's inspected, and posted, no update. Then you submit a see-click fix ticket, it's acknowledged, no update. And then finally you submit a see-click fix ticket, it's acknowledged. It's never acknowledged. It's never acknowledged. So I just want to run through those 4 scenarios for you folks. So here's a real example of the see-click fix ticket system working as designed. You submit a ticket, it's acknowledged, it's inspected, it's closed. This was one in the Upper Washington neighborhood, overgrowth of lawn, submitted on the 2nd of June. Actually got acknowledged a day later, and then got resolved about 20 days later. The property had been cleared. Number 2, you submit a see-click fix ticket, it's acknowledged, and it's inspected and posted, no update. So this was one in Beverwick where it was an overgrowth issue, submitted on the 8th of June, acknowledged 3 days later, inspected about a month later based on see-click fix data, and there was no resolution. Number 3, you submit a see-click fix ticket, it's acknowledged, and there's no update. This was one which was submitted on May 27th, acknowledged the day later. I actually went into the ticket and requested a status update on June 9th and got no answer. And then the final scenario, you submit a ticket, it's acknowledged. Oh, no, sorry, never acknowledged. Never acknowledged. May 27th. Never acknowledged. I even asked a month later for acknowledgement, never got acknowledged. So again, I extracted out the ideal scenario data to show you the time elapsed from an overgrowth issue being reported to when it's closed out, the low being 8 days, and the high being 21, and the average being about 16.25 days from open to close. So I just want to hit on 5 recommendations I have right now for see-click fix based on me really looking at, as an end user, how it's working. Number 1, I do believe all departments should utilize see-click fix in a uniform way. It's not happening right now. For example, traffic and engineering, they don't acknowledge most of my see-click fix tickets. I don't know why. Which creates a lot of uncertainty for me as an end user. Number 2, when a property is inspected and posted by the city, the see-click fix tickets should be updated across the board with the final resolution instead of no update. And number 3, instances where there is no acknowledgement of a ticket it was really bad, should always be avoided. And number 4, one thing I've noticed is that sidewalks, be it like with a tripping point or needs a patch, there's instances where that is being done, but it's not being updated in the tickets. And I think that's important to show people that, you submit a ticket, something is being done on what you're complaining about. And then 5, and I don't know if this is the case, but if it is feasible, I think the city should develop an internal issues tracking system to import the data from SeeClickFix and manage it in a better way. So, and that ends my presentation.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Zach? I guess my question to Sergio and Frank would be, could they incorporate, obviously Zach's in the Uptown system here only takes a little piece of Albany. Is there any way of tracking data citywide to kind of, figure out how to address the glitches that may come up where a ticket is basically never fully resolved? So I guess that's my question to the DGS folks, and then anyone else, any other of the council members, if they have any questions. And Zach, you presented your actual Excel sheets, which I attempted to send to everybody. You're going to continue, or your group is going to continue this process for the foreseeable future, I would assume?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the idea of a downtown neighborhood cooperative is in the works.
Okay. So Sergio and Frank, any suggestions or comments?
Well, I think we would welcome a discussion of, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing some things that I kind of don't add up. I've got numbers that don't jive with these numbers. I've got a lot of questions that have come up. So I think I would want to get some answers to be able to figure some things out. As always, I think with anything, there's always there's room for improvement, and I think that I think that there's communication ways we can communicate better. Hence the reason why the portal's out there. I think if people have better information, they may do things better, and maybe we can avoid some of these issues. And that's part of what I think Owusu's trying to do tonight. And I think we can do that. There's a lot of things, in this report that isn't, a lot of things that we do that aren't taken into account here. But I mean, again, so I would welcome some more communication on this, and I think that would maybe help.
Can I just comment on that?
Yeah.
So let's talk about potholes. So I work up in Columbia Circle.
Yes.
And there's Columbia Circle West, Columbia Circle East. Are they all maintained by the city of Albany?
Part of it is, part of it isn't. Yes.
Because I did ask for clarification on that, because there was potholes reported, they got closed out and they didn't get filled up in that area. So I did ask for clarification, never got a response from DGS.
Yeah. And did you, at any point when you felt you weren't getting a response, did you ever send an email possibly, or make a phone call to talk to anybody? Okay.
I sent an email to Molly McGuire, yes.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, there are things that will fall through the cracks. We get a lot of calls, a lot of potholes come in. Again, limited resources, a lot going on with COVID, as you know. You recently put a lot of potholes in, and if I'm not mistaken, at one point you found 200 locations in one day. So, in order for us to do that, 100 locations in one day. And sometimes, it takes a while to get out there for our guys to go out there and look at them and things. If you see something and you see something falling through the cracks, give us a call. You know what? Email Molly, email us, let us know. And then sometimes something will fall through and we will take care of it.
Oh, I've been in contact with Molly, so I do communicate with her.
Just for the record, I look at data analysis almost daily. We are now at 71% of our potholes. Last year at this time, we were at 92%. So the workforce is impacted, our ability to perform duties. Last time I looked, there was 7,800 and 98 potholes that were filled, that were received through Secret Fix. We should be somewhere around 9,000 by now, which we're not. So the COVID, the workforce restrictions to prevent us from spreading the COVID, which we went from 30% loss of workforce, went to 40% dissolved by the governor, 60% loss of workforce, has had an impact. As a matter of fact, I was telling Frank the other day, I was looking comparison, because we're closing our third quarter now compared to our third quarter last year. It kind of made me cry because our performance is not up there as it where it should be.
Sergio, could you send those reports to us? I don't think there's a requirement to do it, but it would probably be helpful.
We can send you updates. We do it on a monthly basis, figure out how many potholes, how many complaints, how many Secret Fix that closed. We can send you that. But that's what I usually gauge my thing. And the loss of manpower has really impacted our ability to perform at the standard.
Oh yeah, I can acknowledge that. Yeah, I know you're short on manpower, but since you are tracking this, it wouldn't be that difficult if you could just send us your reports on whatever cycle you keep them, monthly, whatever.
Well, I'll send it to them.
Yep.
Okay,
So
I know it's not required.
Mike, I just want to point out that Richard says that the Common Council should never have to FOIL anything, but data that is collected by any government agency of that kind of nature is automatically accessible to the entire public via Freedom of Information law. It's, you know, it's not an opinion, they're collecting and tracking data. And so, you know, I don't think that we should, there should be any question that we should be provided with that information.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're
No,
not.
we're not disputing that.
I raised my hand. I don't know if you saw that, Mike.
No, I didn't. But you can talk.
So, Zach, thanks very much for your analysis. I have created a watch area for my entire ward. So I see, you know, every single item that is complained about and its acknowledgement. And I will say in my ward, I rarely see anything saying this has been closed or followed up on. Now, my neighborhood associations are not doing what you're doing, but you know, whether the work is being done or not is one issue. But the other issue is the frustration of people having bothered to report things and then none of us knowing whether the lack of an entry means it hasn't been done, nothing's been done about it, or that the work might have been done. And so often I don't do anything with most of those kinds of entries. I just kind of monitor it. But when I see a follow-up, you know, a month later from somebody expressing frustration that something is not being taken care of, then I know that it's still open. It really still is open and has been, you know, remains unaddressed. Sometimes I will know that because I'm walking my ward and I will see it. And that's how I know that. So I just want to emphasize what you're saying, that the follow-up, the reliable follow-up and entries on C-Click Fix on a timely basis would be very helpful. And I think it's very frustrating to members of the public. A lot of the members of the public are going to know that something was taken care of, but I think that other people want to know that there has been some sort of response to things. And I want to say, I got so many sarcastic, snippy remarks from the series of C-Click fixes that were just closed within the last month about sidewalks not being shoveled, and I mean, people were just kind of up in arms because it was acknowledged, it was under review, and nothing else was ever done about, said about it, and then all of a sudden it's closed. And there was about, I don't know, 10 of them that were closed. And whether it was, snow plowing a particular street that needed to be better, a lot of them were sidewalks not being shoveled. And so I think that we want this particular people to believe in this particular program and report things in this way and feel like they are going to be followed up on, and that there is going to be a response. And so, and this is not just a COVID issue. This has been an issue for most of my time, on the Common Council, where people are frustrated in not knowing what, if anything, is being done about particular issues. Potholes not being filled, is an issue that I've had complaints about for many years. And then, I can list other things. And I understand that there's a lot of things to be addressed in the city. And it would be really helpful if we had our landlords taking seriously their obligations, and which is why I think Owusu's legislation to increase the fines and to tighten up the notice timeframes, et cetera, is a great move. And thanks for putting that on the agenda, Owusu.
Councilmember Fahey has her hand up. Is it Kathy?
Thanks, Mike. Zach, I think this kind of information can be very, very helpful. This kind of data and, using it to move forward. I think it's really difficult to evaluate what's going on this year, given all that's going on in our community. I almost would rather see it in a future year where things are a little bit back to normal. So, but it's, and I'd also like to see it, you working more closely with Department of General Services to have some of these conversations, because I think, perhaps they could use some of the methods that you use, possibly. Those conversations, I think, are important. So thank you for all the work that you've done on this.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And Councilmember Igo has his hand up. Joe?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Zach, you did a good job on that, okay? I think it was a tough time that you were doing it through, okay? And I'd like to thank Frank and Sergio for coming up with that portal. I think it will hopefully work much better. And I hope it doesn't fall to the wayside, similar to what we used to get from the APD. We used to get weekly or monthly crime reports. We don't get them at all anymore. And that should never happen. I don't think it will, okay? But thank you, and I'd like to thank all the workers of DGS for doing what they can with the numbers that they have. They've done a great job. Thank you.
So we have.
I just have a quick question. Oh, sorry.
Oh, do we have any members of the public who sent letters or want to comment? JR, do you know whether we do?
No, we did not.
Okay.
I want to ask really quick regarding the C-Click fix. DJ, how many people work on C-Click fix? Is it one person or is it multiple people who are, working with C-Click fix?
It's mainly one person. Molly gets the C-Click fixes that comes from the outside and distributes them where they need to go. There are a couple people that will actually close some things out and have access to it. But it's the way that our supervisors and our workforce don't all have access to computers and have access to systems. So it's very difficult with the way that our system is and the way that our people work for them to do that. We have to schedule things out. So that's where Molly comes in and her position comes in to do it. Things have to get closed out and there's some data entry that needs to get done. So we're getting more and more people available to do data entry with C-Click Fix. So that's where some of your issues come, where something gets complete and it doesn't get completed in the system for a while, but it's been done, okay? There's some cyclic fix issues with cyclic fix that we've been back and forth with, where I think there needs to be some updates to their program that I wish that they would do.
We're supposed to go to COVID.
Yeah, we're supposed to do a conference with them actually to talk about some changes, and they canceled it due to COVID. So, but I think that there's some things that, you know, some of the numbers, you know, one of the only ways that we can keep things up is internal comments, and there's an entire archiving system with the comments stop that the end user cannot see. If a comment stops, if a 2-week period comes up after the last comment, and it's closed, it archives it, and that's something that an end user cannot see. You have to be on the internal part. So there's a lot of things that the system doesn't do that I think that we're evolving, and I think it would make it easier if it did do it, right? So there's things that we need to continue to look at, and I think that's part of some of the problems that we see. But you know, we take it, so a lot of this stuff may get done, and it's just not getting closed out. So we're trying to work for get more people trained using iPads, using, you know, whatever they have available to close things out and be able to access the comment section.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you know, I think about my dad, you know, growing up. Whenever I do my homework, I tell him, you know, and I think that, you know, is a sense of pride, you know, especially on the city part. If we fill a pothole, we should acknowledge it. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, it shouldn't be incentive. This is really some good stuff that you guys are doing if you're filling the potholes or addressing these issues. Yeah. And as a kid, that motivated me because my dad, you know, he would take care of me after I acknowledge that I've done my homework. You know, I get to go outside.
Okay.
That we just need to make it.
Councilmember Flynn has his hand up, Jack.
No, Mike, I have a question about the portal. I don't know if we're going to discuss that.
Well,
it's not a big deal.
I mean, obviously we could. I think it's a great idea, but I think we're kind of
that's fine. I agree.
In a crunch now to get our amendments to this straightened out.
And, we should have another meeting on that. But I agree with Mike. Yeah.
Okay. And Councilmember Alfredo has his hand up. Alfredo.
Thank you. First and foremost, I apologize if this question has already been asked. I got kicked off in the last few minutes. One thing, you know, I totally understand that COVID has made this a much more difficult situation. I can respect that. I also understand that, you know, it's been tougher to get manpower to do the job that's needed. I think what I would like to know is what is needed so that we can get these issues addressed, because these have been a problem in the past, you know, and I think maybe if we get a really clear picture of what DGS needs, you know, how can we address it beyond what we're dealing with now? You're down 40 people. We get that.
Bodies.
What do you, so well, two things. One, what is it that we're paying our staff so low? I'll say it again. I've said it a couple of meetings now, that we're paying our staff so low that they're better off on unemployment. So where's the data that you can give us that shows what other municipalities are paying? And maybe we should be paying our staff members to don't have this issue. And two, what is the funding that you need? You know, now's the time. You know, we're going into the budget season. Now's the time to let us know what is it that would be needed to address these concerns so that we're not having these conversations. And again, I'm not upset at people on the ground because, you know, I think when you're 40 under, you know, it's tough. So then what is it that we can do to make sure that these issues get corrected sooner rather than later?
Well, that's a very broad question. Today I had a meeting with our legal counsel about some things that we could do or our new upcoming contractual bargaining agreement. As you know, we're a union shop. We have to be following with the contract. We talked to legal counsel today about some ideas and how to do things better at DGS. Certainly payment incentive is definitely a plus. I don't think we're that far off from our surrounding communities, but we are off. Also, one of the things that to answer your question, it takes some multiple components. It's not just money. I believe that in the last 2 years, we have shifted enough personnel to minimize the impact. At one time, we were out 68 people, 72 people at the peak of the COVID. That's 1/3 of our workforce. At one time, for 2 months, for 8 weeks, all we were doing is collecting garbage and collecting recycling. We weren't doing anything in the parks. We weren't doing anything else. So yeah, it is a unique year, but there are things that we can do in the process, including compensation, look at some compensation, look at some training. Our workforce is an older workforce. Once you you give them an iPad in front of their eyes, they panic. It's that generation, like who used to say his father, you put an iPad in front of an older guy, he starts panicking. They used to do things in papers, which that makes it difficult for us to track information. So your answer, it's not one particular thing. It's not just money. It's not just, it's just that things is, I believe that we're made progressive steps to make things better. We looked at some shifts, we reassigned employee and personnel, and some things that got better. And then, this is a terrible year all around.
Okay. I'd like to start wrapping up. I believe there's been some amendments proposed. And JR, could you just screen share the amendments and explain them for us? Hello?
Sure can.
Yeah.
So I made the amendments regarding the receiving a complaint, which says right here, upon receiving a complaint, including but not limited to, see click fix. And then the amendments with business days as opposed to calendar days.
Okay.
I striked out chapter 258 and created penalties as per the sponsor regarding litter and vacant lots. So now we are amending section 313.44 of Article 4, which is titled litter of chapter 313, which is their penalties offense, which referred back to chapter 258 of the code, struck it out and put in either $1,000, the shall not exceed $1,000 in the amount, or by imprisonment not exceeding 15 days, or both. And it's the same thing for vacant lots as in section 313-49 of Article 5. Vacant lots of chapter 313. It is the mirror language as above for litter.
Okay, to my recollection, that does complete all the amendments which were discussed. Any other comment on that, or does anyone want to make a motion for to approve those amendments? And does anyone want to make a motion to make a recommendation?
Yeah.
Can I jump in there, Mike?
Sure.
So notice again, we're only dealing with litter and vacant lots. Changes that affect that.
Litter and overgrowth. Yeah.
Well,
right. We're not dealing with a whole host of other secrets.
But Mike, so if you have a property that is not vacant, and you have an overgrowth issue, you're not changing the fines associated with it.
Oh.
So really what you need to do there, because where that is located is for all other properties is in subdivision A of 313-51-1. So my recommendation would be to add to change subdivision E there where you talk about the cost of abatement and add and fines, and then add like a subdivision or subdivision 5 underneath that, where you are establishing the fines for violations of this section also.
JR?
Councilwoman Doche is actually incorrect. When you're talking about the cost of abatements, are you talking about the fine separate from the administrative fee, or are you talking about fines in terms of the violation? That, because those are two different things. And what we've been establishing before, the $1,000, that refers back to Chapter 258, but they go under the provisions of 44 and 49 of 313 of those respective articles.
Okay, so I can't stress this enough. The only place where you have violations against occupied properties for overgrowth kinds of issues and mowing of lawns and that kind of thing is in 313-51-1 subdivision A.
Okay.
Which is part of the reason why I also thought the reference in B should either reference this section, 313-51.1, or which is what Richard and I were texting back and forth, which was what Richard thought needed to be done. I was just using the article VA because of the reference to the other articles.
So
Can
do we
I,
have,
can I suggest that a motion be made to pass this out of committee with the understanding that this technical amendment to address the fine for the $1,000 for all violations intended to be addressed under this particular section be addressed before council action?
do you want to make that motion? And that would,
A member of the committee.
all right, you're not on the committee.
I would make that motion, but I want to vote it out with a favorable recommendation, and then we'll make that amendment before it gets voted on come Monday.
Who's second?
Yeah, when is the next meeting?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion on the motion?
No.
Hearing, so just,
Councilwoman Doche, you're just so I can understand in terms of how I'm going to proceed after this, are you suggesting amendments to 313-51.1A, or is there another section? Because I'm still trying to figure out how to make that work.
I was thinking, I mean, really, you could add a new subdivision. What I forget whether it stops at E, F, or G, but you could add a new subdivision to add specific fines for violations of subsection A of this section. But, JR.
Can they work
You
it
and I
out
can have this-
later?
You and I can have this conversation after the committee acts.
Yeah. So there's a motion on the floor, and was voted. Let's go, Mike.
We didn't
okay,
vote.
so it was seconded by Jack Flynn,
No.
and we've had a discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, 4 in favor. Is there any other issues before us?
Yeah, just really quick, Commissioner, can you just talk about, and this is a question that I've been asking other department, the police chief came to speak and I asked him the same thing. In these challenging times that we're in, or just overall, what is the morale in your department?
Well, the
Obviously, we're
morale-
not going to spend a long time on this, but if,
we had, briefly, we had a high, morale, and then all of a sudden, it started going down. And it's part of it because the troops feel unappreciated. Some of the troops are watching these meetings. They're aware of some of the comments that are being said about the department specifically, and they're not. It's not helping. Also, they're getting beat up because with a staff shortage of 44 people, everybody's got to put their load and then some. I plan to have, going back to a regular meeting session, September 1st. I've told the staff that we will have more meetings to discuss specific, but morale, it's not as good as it was 8 months ago. I'm going to say that, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn our
Make
meeting?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think that is unanimous. So thank you for everybody who participated, and hopefully we'll get on top of this. Thanks.